Hello, 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 and welcome to a very spooky and fun edition of Pot Still Live. I am delighted to be here with you all this evening for this fantastic Dingle Samhain single malt tasting on, of all days in the world, Halloween. Of course, we're not here alone, and I'm loving that we're able to join each other from all across the world. And usually, when I do welcome everyone from all across the world, that's me welcoming Tina in Germany or Sam in Brazil. But today, I'm talking to you for my first ever international Pot Still Live, in the fact that I am coming to you from Rotterdam in the Netherlands. And I am delighted to be able to do that and say hello to all of you once again. But I know that none of you are here to hear me talk. I know you want to hear everyone else from Dingle, so I'm going to do a little one by one as we introduce everyone. Of course, we have Master Distiller Graham Coull. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very good, thank you.
Of course, we have a fantastic returning guest, international brand ambassador Dave Cummins. How are you doing, Beardy?
How's it going, Matt? Good to see you. Good to see you're alive and well after all those festivals.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, a first timer to the show, we have Julie Malone, also known as the Dingle Druid. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Iahauna.
Iahauna, indeed. And okay, guys, so we're here. We have a huge amount of people joining us across the world. I'm seeing people in Glanmire, the sunny southeast. We have people coming in from, again, Germany, Limerick, Clonakilty, or Galway. You know, people are absolutely buzzing for this. I saw 27 people from 8 o'clock were sitting waiting for this to start. So I know people are very excited. I think Graham's camera has just pulled a fast on us, but that's fine. I'll knock him off into the background and let him come back on a different stream here. But so where should we start, lads? Because of course, Julie, it's your first time on the show, and I know that you have a very special insight to bring us tonight, that you're going to tell us all about Samhain and what it means in the Dingle Peninsula. And I am delighted that Master Distiller Graham Coull has rejoined us. All good there, Graham? Technology working? It is not.
He was momentarily back.
Exactly. Well, Julie, why don't you start us off as to where we should begin this journey of Samhain and Dingle?
Well, Samhain and Dingle, one of the things about a Samhain night is we mask up and we move between the worlds, and it's a night of trickery. So it'll be interesting to see Graham coming on and off here as part of the Iahauna is the trickery. And when people mask, we're out of ordinary time. You know, we're not ourselves. So it's a night where we can be somebody else. We can. Usually here we carve turnips or sugar beets. You can see behind me here, that's one of my sugar beets instead of pumpkins. And in Dingle Town they go trick-or-treating, but in the rural areas we do things like snap apple and divination games with earth and coins and all of that, all the boring brack and all of those, the house games.
Well, I mean, you say the boring brack, but always one of my favorite parts of Halloween and Samhain. And of course, so in terms of the origins of Samhain, I think I have a lot of friends that always make the jokes that Irish people love telling others abroad continuously that Samhain, of course, is an Irish festival. Halloween is an Irish holiday. I suppose, do you want to give us a little background into that and I suppose what it means for the area? And also on a side note, I've carved turnips before and it's really, really difficult.
So the next time you do it, Matt, you get an electric drill. You know the way you get like the carpenter one where you do holes, and they're all pre-drilled and then you scoop them out.
See, I didn't have the inside scoop on this one. I think as you bring us through the journey, I think Graham might be back. Graham, you back with us?
I'm back. Yeah, sorry, I just lost sight.
That'll be the Pookie now, Graham. That'll be the Pookie.
Yeah, definitely
Halloween night.
So we start with Samhain, and it's the Celtic New Year. So it's the celebration of death and rebirth. and it's the last sheaf of the harvest is cut. So anything that isn't cut and isn't harvested after Samhain, it's left in the fields, and it's left for the Chailak, which is the crone or the hag, generally. And it is a time where we're moving into the darkness. It's a time where the veils of the worlds are really thin. It's a time where we believe that our ancestors could come visit us and we could mingle with them. So hence a lot of the masking, the trickery, and there's also celebration because the harvest is finished. And then we would have huge bonfires, and the bonfires would be in celebration. And if we start with the wheel of the year, because it's the death and it's the rebirth, so we take it the death of the harvest, we're moving into the darkness, we're moving into the time of, by the fireside, time of deep dreaming, a time which is lovely to sit and celebrate and have a whiskey. And then we move into winter solstice, which is, so we have the 8 festivals of the year. The next one will be winter solstice in 6 weeks' time. So from here to winter solstice is the darkest period. And then it turns. Then the days get longer. And then 6 weeks after that, we move into St. Bridget's Day. And that's the first of the fertility festivals. And that's when, as Irish people, we go around saying there's a great stretch in the evening. And there's great celebration and a great stretch of the evening. So it's the first of 3 fertility festivals. And if we're looking at the whiskey, we're looking at growing, especially the grain, the barley. It's when the ground is beginning to stir and beginning to, the snowdrops are coming up. The first stirrings of spring start. And then we move on to the spring equinox. And that's very much in seed energy. And that's when we start sowing the seeds. And then we move into Bealtaine, and that's moving into flower energy and the fullness of life and the celebration of the harvest. And then we move into Lunasa. We move into summer solstice, and then we have the harvest in its fullness. And then we move into the first harvest festival, which is Lunasa. And Lunasa would be very much dancing at the crossroads, celebrations, cutting the first sheaf. And then we move into the equinox. We're coming into a point of balance. So we have our spring one and we have our autumn one. And again, we're in full harvest. So the barley is in full harvest at that stage. And then we move into Samhain again, where everything calms down and the last sheaf is cut. And also the seeds. So the plant gives of itself, so that's the death. And then the seeds are harvested, and then the cycle begins again. So it's following the agricultural year, and also it follows the wheel of the year. So there's a correlation between the harvest year and our year. So as the death of the harvest, we're then moving into, I suppose, the death of summer here, and we're moving into the darkness. And that's why there's great celebration in moving into the darkness and kind of harnessing that last light and that last kind of kickback to summer, because we're on a threshold. And tonight is a huge threshold in moving into the dark half of the year. And it's also the time when, with the harvest, we get to make the whiskey. We get to enjoy the fruits of the harvest.
The best parts of the harvest.
Best parts of the harvest, yes.
So it really kind of falls into that kind of, as you said, the wheel of the year, having those cycles of I suppose as you mentioned, the agricultural year, which would have been, I suppose, very, very ingrained and important to points to demarcate throughout the year, particularly in I suppose times past across the island of Ireland, and anyone who is watching from abroad, and particularly in places like that aren't as quite far north in the world as we are. I think it always shocks people to remember or to realize quite how long our summer days are and quite how short our winter days are as well. That it certainly has a kind of a cyclical effect on the year. I want to ask one thing. Of course, Julie, you are known as the Dingle Druid, but for those out there that do not know of Druids, Could you give us a quick rundown on
Quick
what that?
synopsis. So I would work with the laws of nature. I would work with the agricultural year. I would work with the Celtic festivals that I just mentioned, the 8 festivals of the year. And then I would also work with the wheel of life. So in the agricultural year, as I said, it's the end of the harvest, it's the death and rebirth. And then in our own wheel of life, in the agriculture, all, you know, the fall and autumn, nature lets go in beauty all around us, and with us our energy is going inwards, and in, I suppose, the trees, the energy is going down to their roots, and our energy is going down, and our roots are our ancestors. So that's why the Festival of the Dead, and there would be huge associations with the other world and where we go after we die this time of the year, especially in Ireland, and the land worshipping of that. So I work as a celebrant in the festivals, but also in weddings, marriages, births, in the cycles of people's lives, and all the gateways that we go through, coming of age, and all of those.
And in your celebrations of Samhain, when would you see many kind of modern reflections in what has become the kind of the Irish Halloween traditions, for say, or are the celebrations of Samhain and modern Halloween completely detached from each other?
Well, Halloween has come from Samhain, so it was our, as I said, third harvest and our celebration of the dead and the ancestors. And then when the Irish went to America, they must have been delighted when they found pumpkins, because we didn't have pumpkins here. And we didn't have electric drills years ago either, so they were just carving away with knives. And I broke 3 knives during the week, even doing the sugar beets. So we brought it over, and then I suppose it was the onslaught of films. You know, as children in Dingle, none of the shops had pumpkins. Like, I never saw pumpkins as a child. It's a very recent thing. We had sugar beets, and we had turnips and mangels and all of those that we carved, and it was very much about the divination games and snap apple, and we used to put blindfolds on and put our fingers into earth or water, and if you went into earth you were going to die, and water you were going to go abroad, and if you put your hand into the money you were going to get money. And you know, all of these games, they were all very much divination games and working with the other world, whereas Halloween now is sugar and Hollywood, really, you know, Friday 13th, all of that.
Exactly, and Hollywood, as I said off camera, often misinterpreting the word Samhain to a mythical Samhain, who has shown up very recently. I've been watching some American TV that they've been running for their lives from the awful Samhain, and to be honest, it was one of the worst TV experiences I've heard. Just continuously. But yes, so I suppose, Julie, as we kind of start to wind down with yourself and the explanations of Samhain, and move into the whiskey tastings with Graham and Beardy Dave, is there anything that you think you want to leave us as a parting way, something you really hope that we would know, or a fun tidbit that you think that would be fun to leave us on?
Well, first I would say congratulations, and congratulations to Graham for his the new collection, and the bottle is beautiful, the whiskey is beautiful, and it's just so lovely. It's really lovely, and I'm excited about the wheel of the year and the others to come, and just how it's going to go all over the world, and how you say about our Samhain and Halloween, and it gives a greater interest and a greater, I suppose, connection to where it's made here in Dingle, and the old ways and the old connections, and people forget that it comes from the earth, it comes from barley. So enjoy the night, and when you've filled with your whiskey, know that it's also a night of trickery. So in rural areas like this, we would go and maybe open the gates of our neighbours, let their animals out, just do little things like that. And that's why you mask up, so that you have one night in the year that you can go do things that wouldn't be allowed to do any other time of the year. So that's what I'll leave you with.
I see Beardy Dave as a true fan. I hope, Dave, you've got the Bulls locked in now, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Really, he's going to be watching you. I'll get you out of here quick. So thank you so much for your time.
Enjoy.
Oh well, I'm going to pull myself up here now and I'll replace Dave. You've been kicked, Dave. But I am delighted that we had Julie, who's able to join us for the beginning. But now it is time for me to hand over to you guys. And actually, maybe we'll pull apart. We'll go this way a little bit. How are you guys doing? How are we feeling? Are we feeling energized with having heard all of this now? Introducing the Wheel of the Year and of course Samhain. Are we? I suppose, Graham, how are you feeling in your being now that your technological problems have relieved themselves?
Hopefully, I'm just sitting here thinking, how do I follow a druid? It's not often that a druid is your warm-up act. So hopefully the whiskey will live up to Julie's words and explanations.
Exactly. Well, I am just want to jump into the comment section for a second, because I see a huge amount of people already letting us know where they're joining us from. I see we have Stephen in Austria jumping in, saying he's delighted to see a new Dingle distributor there. So I guess it's going to be even easier for him to get his hands on some fantastic bottles coming up. We're seeing a lot of people in Dublin, and the Liberties more in Dublin. We've got people from lovely Wexico, and we've got Carlo coming from all over. I'm seeing a huge domestic contingent tonight, which is always great to see. But I suppose, guys, we're here now to talk not just about the Festival of Sound, but about Dingle Sound single malt release. Why don't you guys let us know, kick us off on what it is and what we should expect from this bottling?
Okay, so probably the best thing to do is start with explain the pack a little, because hopefully if Fastway didn't do a dirty on you, then you will have a pack that's intact. If not, then hopefully you've enough there to scrape together. At worst, you've got a bar of chocolate soaked in whiskey, which is maybe not a bad thing. Could be the next Dingle release for us. So in the pack, I'll speak about the whiskey wise or the spirit wise. So it's quite apt on Halloween to have spirit in there rather than whiskey. So you may be able to guess which one that is. Letter A, the clear one. So that's our single malt new make spirit. And then included in the pack, obviously we've got another 3 bottles now. Bottle number B is our current release, our Dingle single malt, which is in the blue label, blue tube. So it's a chance for people to revisit that if they tasted it before, or taste it if you haven't come across it. So a chance to see where we're at. That was released last year and has been nicely received across the world. It's getting Dingle a much further reach than we would have had previously. But then we get into the nitty gritty of the pack. C and D are really Samhain or Samhain as it started. So bottle number C is a bourbon cask component, and then bottle number D is Samhain itself.
So I suppose, what way would you like to run through this fantastic tasting? Would you like to run us through the Wheel of the Year, or should we get our glasses filled with some lovely new make as we start to find our way through?
I think dip into the new make first. It's nice to give it a little bit of time. Sometimes we jump through the new make too quickly and pour it into the glass. Obviously, it does come with the standard health warning that it's 65% alcohol. So it's not there to be knocked back at all. But just enjoy the nuances of the spirit and remembering now or looking back that Dingle will be 10 years old this year, Dingle Distillery. So it's nice to start at the beginning almost with the new spirit.
So, of course, if you are tasting along at home, feel free at this moment to fill your glass. Dave, I trust that you have your glasses filled there as well.
People are always surprised with our new make. I always find when at tastings, they always kind of find that it's very, palatable and easy to drink when they're expecting that percentage to kind of knock them, It has that kind of nice kind of oily character and that mouthfeel that just makes it very, very palatable and easy to drink. An awful lot of people at tastings have said it to us before, like, oh, why don't you just bring this out? But that's another discussion for another day. But yeah, it's one of those ones. It's just it's a great way for people to actually see the component parts of, from start to finish, because you very rarely get to see new make, not unless you're in a distillery when they're taking it out of the third still. So it's one of those things that's nice, seeing as we are Dingle and everything's handcrafted. You're able to try this and see it at the stage before it goes into the casks.
Exactly, and a healthy reminder that it is at a cask strength of 63.5. Is that right, Graham?
65% we cask at for our
my apologies.
Right.
So I suppose where would you like to bring us, Dave, on this lovely Samhain evening? So where do you think that we should? We have a little nose. We're having a little taste. I see in the comments section we are tasting along with us, and people are really loving it. I see Gordon here saying, "Yeah, I'd buy this." So that's always great to see. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, I suppose, maybe not Samhain right away, but the Wheel of the Year and what it kind of is kicking off and encompassing a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's kind of fitting that we're going into Samhain. Like, we just finished our batches in single malt and our releases in pot stills. So let's say the first releases that we had out of Dingle was 6 single malts and 5 single pot stills, and then we released our Dingle single malt last April. So this is kind of a new, let's say, collection or set that will be coming out that symbolizes the different stages in the year and the cycle of the year. And you'll see on the packaging, you'll have seen on social media that we've stuck up a few posts where you see the front of the label, and it's circular with the different symbols that will give you hints of what's coming down along the line for the different releases that we're going to do. And again, this is a new set, new series, something for people to maybe try. It's different things that we haven't done before, and it'll be something interesting for people that have followed Dingle all this way and wanted to try some different things that we have that they maybe have tried at the likes of Whiskey Live or stuff like single cat or samples that we brought along, and now you're seeing the culmination of that coming into these bottlings. And Samhain is the first one, and it's fitting because Samhain is the end of the year. It's the start of a recycle or the next cycle, and so the batches and releases are finished, and now we're on to this new cycle.
Absolutely. And I also believe, Graham, that this is the first bottling that will bear your signature on it. Is that correct?
Yes, it does, which it's always nice to see, even after 28 years of making whiskey. It's nice to see your name up in lights.
Can you tell I'm a very proud wifey?
I can pay. I can indeed.
He signs every single one. That's what he's doing there every day, signing every single one.
Exactly. Yes.
You'll get carpal tunnel after all that now. Be careful out there.
I'll see Doug Ledden.
Workman's Comp is on the way. Well, for me, I'm loving tasting the single malt, and I think it's judging from the comment section, I think people are really enjoying seeing where I suppose the distillery character starts from and being able to pull out some of that character as well. Graham, do you want to add anything to the new make as we have it in the glass?
Yeah, just for those that it's always easy to assume that people know everything about Dingle, but there will be some new people on here tonight, hopefully. And the single malt for Dingle is triple distilled, so we take the wash, the beer, and pass it through three distillations. So it's coming off the still almost up near 80% alcohol. but we tame that back a little before we put it in the cask and take it back down to 65. But the lower strength allows the spirit to interact with the wood better, and hopefully as we taste the next components and next bottles, you'll see that the cask influence is starting to bear fruit as well.
Exactly. I must say that the packaging of Dingle has always, I think, been very recognizable, especially from the very beginning with the Remboy on the bottle and the embosses and everything. And I think this is a great example of that packaging that's kind of, it evolves with the brand as it goes through the years. As you said, it's nearly 10 years old now. So I think the sound packaging is a complement to the Dingle spirit, and kind of, I think, helps live through the kind of the quality going from new make to bottle. And I hope others agree with me, but I don't really care because I think it's great. And my opinion is the only one I care about right now. But yeah, so I mean, I'm seeing a lot of people coming through with their thoughts, and I think we're very much enjoying this right now. Do you want to give us a little bit more information as we sit with this, Graham? I don't want to rush off the new make, but I'm cognizant that we have some lovely other samples to be trying. So
yeah, no, I think I think if people can take the time, take their leisure to enjoy these samples, they are quite distinct in many ways. So to actually get the enjoyment and the nuances from them, you need to really take a bit of time, and definitely maybe you'll be adding a little bit of water as well, just to draw out those more subtle flavors that are hidden below the alcohol threshold. So not advising anybody to drink all the new make before they move on to letter B, or their alphabet might become quite short this evening.
Exactly. Well, we always do advise people to have 4 glasses on hand if you happen to have them, because of course at the end you can compare and contrast the samples that you have remaining. So I am going to move on to my second glass, if it's permitted to have letter B be opened up. And I suppose, Dave, do you want to tell us just a little bit about I suppose where we might see this, I suppose, impending product available around the world? I know I'm kind of teasing out some of the information as we go, but I'd love to know a little bit about what markets might be seeing the Samhain release.
Yeah, the Samhain it'll be available tonight. There's a link, I think, that Doug has just sent everybody, that if they want to get an early bottle before it actually goes on sale in Irish Malts at 10, and then it'll be available. In Ireland, it'll be available from your local independent off license or some supervisors, so the likes of Celtic, Foxes, Malloy's, Matson's and Bradley's down in Cork, Dicey's in Donegal, Foley's in Sligo, Freeney's and McCambridge's in Galway. Like any of your local off license, just don't be afraid to ask for it. And then we will be, across the next kind of 2 weeks, we will be sending it out across 19 different countries. So most of the people that I believe are on will be able to get it where they are from as well, which will be great. It is limited, so there is only a certain amount to go around. So I think it's 10,000 bottles altogether, and there's only going to be about 3,500 for here in Ireland. So I don't really see it lasting too long. From the tasting that we had at the gathering, everyone seemed to absolutely love it. So I see this one flying off the shelf, and it'll just, the only thing I'd say to people, if you're in your local and you want it, just ask for it, because I'd say by Christmas it'll be gone. And then your pubs as well. There's a lot of your good whiskey bars will have it. Thomas Connolly's and the Palace and the Bankers and Sky in the Ground, they're all getting it in. So be sure to pop in. And the Dingle Whiskey Bar has it this weekend as well. So if you want to go in and maybe get a try before it'll hit the shelves, fire ahead, because it'll be first come, first serve, because there's only so much of it.
I'm seeing people already saying they've now ordered it. So Doug's link must have gone live. So I'm seeing people quick off the bat, and just in terms, so people are aware that in the sense of the Wheel of the Year, there's only a limited amount of bottles being released at the moment, and then that's it. This sound is not going to be re-released.
That's it. So it's pretty much, let's say, a batch, and it's a limited number. Each release will be different. They'll either be higher or lower, but they'll be, it's not going to be an awful lot of whiskey. They are limited in numbers, and each time we let you know how much that there is. But the way the wheel and the cycle of the year works, they'll go pretty fast. We hope anyway. But yeah, from all intents purposes, from what we've seen when we were down at the gathering, yeah, I'd say this one will absolutely fly out the door. Everybody loved it.
Oh, good to hear. So why don't we jump into sample B then, Graham, and why don't you take us through what we're tasting here and what we may expect?
Yeah, so sample B is our Dingle single malt, which as I released last year. So I think people enjoy it. Hopefully you're aware of this whiskey. You've maybe tasted it before, but I'll give it a very quick intro. It's a combination of Pedro Jimenez sherry casks and bourbon casks, and the ratio is 60-40, 60% Pedro Jimenez and 40% bourbon. All full maturation, so that tells you that the new make spirit that you tasted in A went into the cask, went into the Pedro Jimenez cask, went into the bourbon cask at day one, and stayed there until I combined them together. We actually have about 20,000 litre vat now in the warehouse where we combine the two cask types together, just to give a bit of marrying pre-bottling. And also what we've introduced as well is a bit of what I call slow reduction, but some, in the States that we call it barrel proofing, where you just take the strength from cask strength down gently over a period. We do it over a period of a couple of months, and it just stops the shock. If you add water to high strength whiskey, there's a bit of a shock, a bit of a heat reaction there, and a bit of flashing off of flavour. So what we do is we add water slowly, and that minimises that effect, and just we've gone to great lengths to try and get flavour into the whiskey through the maturation. So at the end, we try and retain as much of that character as possible. And with all Dingle whiskies, they're non-chill filtered, so we don't strip out anything at the end either, and natural colour. So yeah.
Just before I take my little sip, just a reminder of people at home what the ABV of this is, just so we're not jumping back and around.
Yeah, so it's 46.3%. So almost kind of our standard strength for our releases up till now. The batch releases, single malt pot still releases were 46.5. So it's that nice strength where it allows you. Well, it doesn't force you into chill filtering, which again, can take a little bit of the flavour away. Also, forget the chill filtering bit. You can argue whether that is good or bad, but it's also just a nice strength to drink whiskey at. I think if you drink whiskey at these strengths and then try and drink something at 40%, again, you find it very thin and lifeless. So it's a nice. I think. If you enjoy your whiskey, it's just a good strength to dip in at.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to say Sláinte. I'm going to have a little sip here now, and I see people are already tasting in the comment section. Let us know what you think, because I'm seeing some very, very favourable reviews of the core Dingle single malt.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of really nice comments about Dingle single malt just now. The single malt there is, it was released last year. It will develop, it will evolve, because the distillery is developing and evolving, but I certainly see it being front and foremost for at least 3 or 4 years, and then as the distillery gets older, the stock gets older, then the Dingle single malt will probably evolve into something different, and we'll start to see maybe age statements coming out of Dingle in the next few years. But the Wheel of the Year is really our transition from the batch releases to aged products. So that's kind of where we are. I think
we've almost closed the first chapter of Dingle as we almost reach 10 years old. That chapter with the batch releases, the pot still releases, that's obviously now come to an end. So we're just opening another chapter, which will span over just over 2 years. The Wheel of the Year, so it's the Wheel of 2 years really, and you'll see, you see several releases. But when I came to Dingle just over 3 years ago now, so I'm now legal tender as a master distiller in Ireland. I think one thing I tasked myself with, the stock profile was great at Dingle, solid backbone of bourbon and sherry casks and some port. But I tasked myself with widening that portfolio of casks, and that's really, from my point of view, from the whiskey side of things, that's really what you're going to see with the Wheel of the Year series. You're going to see Dingle expressions and cask types that you've not seen before.
Well, I think people are very excited. I know if they're this excited about the core range, I know they're going to be chomping at the bit to see what Samhain has in store for us. So perhaps is it time that we peek on through the veil and between the worlds of what is Dingle core range single malt into what is Samhain, if that was on the nose enough?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've been shuffling around a little bit, trying to keep a little bit of secrets up our sleeve. But if anybody's watched our social media over the last couple of days, you don't need to be a genius to pin it all together and work out what we've got here. But we'll keep up the mystique anyway. It's all good fun.
And that's one thing about the beauty of having the new make spirit there. You actually get to taste the Dingle character, or the single malt, what we're tasting tonight now, the single malt character. So you should be able to notice that character the whole way through in each of the samples that were given. So it's something there that, even though you will have the cask's influence, and that you will still hopefully be able to notice that Dingle single malt character coming through from the new make in our Dingle single malts sample number B, and then on to C and D, which is always great just to see the progression of how that character develops with the casks.
Exactly.
Well, actually, can I just ask a quick question on Graham, because it was something that he had done with the Dingle single malt, the reduction in ABV with that slow reduction. Do you find, Graham, that it keeps more of the flavor of the whiskey that you're trying to keep more of that flavor in, and not, as you said, shock it away, or
Yeah, I think it's very subtle, but I first did it and didn't say much about it with Pot Still 5, the fifth release. Did it slightly different with it. We actually did the barrel proofing element where we added the water straight to the bottom.
No, not the wee.
It's the royal wee.
That's the paddy wee.
I knew she wouldn't let you away with that.
Yeah. I watched them do it. But anyway, so basically we added water to the cask, and because as the cask has matured, you've got the evaporation, the angel share. So there's a bit of space left in the cask, even at 6-7 years old. There's a bit of a void there. So really what you're doing in simple terms is topping that cask up with water slowly. And it's a nice way to do it in cask, because you're still getting the benefit of the maturation coming through. So did it with Pot Still, the fifth release, and just kept that going, because I think it certainly can't do any harm. And if anybody has added water to whiskey, you do realise that it warms up. There's a bit of chemical reaction going on there, a bit of heat, exothermic. So what you're trying to do is not flash off the very subtle and volatile compounds that are in there that do certainly give aspects to the nose and a little bit to the taste. The other thing that adding water can do is it can almost split the whiskey. The fats and oils kind of fall apart a little, and if you add the water slowly, you retain the creamy mouthfeel that you'd want. So very subtle. Not going to stand in here and beat a drum about it, but if we can do it, we'll do it. We've got time, we've got patience, and it's just a nice way to try and keep all the flavour in.
Exactly. Well, on that note, I'm going to let all the flavor out and fill in my glass, our sample C. And I invite everyone else to do so with me. And I suppose, Graham, why don't you give us a little indication of what's in this bottle and also what ABV it's at?
So C is really an introduction to D, because I'm going to have to give away now. I think I've shuffled around the point a bit already. So basically, D, if you've got two glasses, I would probably suggest you pour C and D together. If you don't, then it's not the end of the world. But C is a bourbon matured single malt, Dingle single malt, and it's been reduced to 50.5% alcohol. So from the cask and reduced down to 50.5. So it's really in this pack for you to see what or where sample D came from, because sample D, Samhain, is a muscatel finish. So you've got a sweet dessert wine finish. But if we stick with C at the moment, dip into C, get yourself acquainted with what a bourbon matured whiskey tastes like, noses like, and tastes like.
Okay, well, I'm going to throw my olfactory into this glass and have a little sip. Just launch it.
And this is 7-year-old bourbon matured whiskey, as is Samhain.
So I see a lot of people in the comment section as well. A big reminder that you do have an email for a little advanced purchasing if you fancy getting a bottle of Samhain into your both into your shopping cart, but also into your front door through I believe Irish Malts. So do taste along. Let us know what you are tasting. But Beardy, why don't you let us know what I suppose people should be looking for in a kind of the bourbon matured Dingle malt.
So I believe, if I'm not quoting Graham wrong, he thinks our bourbon is kind of coming to it. The bourbon single malt is coming to some of its peak in the next couple of years in Dingle. So you're going to get a lot of kind of buttery and creamy notes, really nice mouthfeel. And then you're also going to get this kind of citrus on the back as well. You should probably still get a little bit of that grain on the nose. Sometimes you will, but as it ages on, it'll start changing that towards buttery, creamy, vanilla kind of flavors. Again, it totally depends on each person's palate. Just because you get vanilla and I get butter, it's actually pretty much the same thing. It's just different parts. It's under the same category on the flavor wheel. It's just the way we taste things. Everyone's palate is different, but they're kind of getting the same thing. Yeah, it's just one of those ones. Bourbon, it's a beaut to work with. It's a lot of Irish whiskey will be started in bourbon because we can get the casks from America pretty handy because they can only use them once. And it's a good kind of foundation whiskey to start off, especially if you're going finishing something. Bourbon just gives you that nice kind of foundation to build on. And I think I know that we're probably going to get a lot of people here going, release this on its own as well, because every time we do our bourbon single malt, everyone's like, when are you releasing a bourbon single cask single malt? So it's one of the ones that no matter what tastings I do, everyone loves it, absolutely loves it. Just very easy to drink, leaves a lovely aftertaste, a lovely kind of mouthfeel, oily, creamy mouthfeel. So yeah, I'm not surprised by some of the comments in the comment section at the moment now. And yeah, it is as Faye was saying there, it is approximately 7 years old. For I think Treaty City there were asking how old it was.
So Graham, if I'm not mistaken, you know, as you said, this is the base, and we've perhaps seen Dingle single malt in bourbon before at different tastings, but usually, as you said, a component part that kind of gets vatted with something else that's been matured in something else, like the Dingle core single malt. Is it perhaps fair or even accurate to say that sample D, the Samhain, is the first kind of cask finishing that we will be seeing from Dingle as a release?
It is. It's the first cask finished Dingle released, but it's also they were the first casks to be used for finishing. Not long after I joined Dingle, so early 2020, we transferred into the Muscatel cask. So they've had a bit of time. There's always a bit of debate and questions as to what is a finish, what is a whiskey finish now. There is no real rules around it, but in my head, especially with the whiskey being younger, you definitely need to be given that finish 18 months minimum, 2 years. So, but this is now pretty much well over the 2 years in Muscatel, so it's almost like whiskey where it's spent a good bit of time, obviously, in bourbon, but it's also spent quite a high percentage of its maturation life in the Muscatel as well.
Well, absolutely, and when you're getting to that age in finishing, I think as you mentioned, it kind of blurs the lines of finishing. What is 2 years in a different cask in a 7-year cycle really finishing, or is that just kind of I suppose a second maturation? And I'm sure there's I've been debated on this rather. I've not wanted the debate, but it's been brought to me a few times on whether or not that second maturation or finishing comes in different waves and cycles. I'm seeing a lot of people saying Sample C is excellent, lovely and buttery. Want to buy a whole bottle of this, Dave? You called that one. And then I think potentially the early link may have sold out. I don't know if there was a specific allocation. That's definitely a Doug question, but if that's the case, then I think clearly people are very eager to get their hands on this. I have seen a couple of people saying that they are already jumping into Sample D already. I do let us know in the comment section what your thoughts are on C, if you are still enjoying it. And I hope the people who are watching after the fact and watching this back tomorrow, whatever day they might be, get to see just, I suppose, how excited people are about Sample C at this point, because it's causing a stir already, and that's, as I said, the kind of the core of the Dingle spirit in a bourbon cask. Graham, is there anything you want, I suppose, to tell us or a tidbit about I suppose maturation and bourbon in Dingle, or is it time for the star attraction of the show?
Yeah, I think it's lovely to hear people clamoring to buy a bottle of this and then see it released. I do have to keep some things back for a few years later. So bourbon probably cask is the gift that keeps on giving. They are, as Dave said, for me, they are just coming into their own now at this kind of 7-year-old, 8-year-old mark at Dingle. And for me, but I don't know what Dingle tastes like at 12-year-old, but my guess is that these casks will continue to improve, and hopefully we won't have to wait too long to see them come through. But we fill around 40% of our stock is filled into bourbon, and so it's a major part of our maturation strategy.
Exactly. Dave, I do want to clarify on something here. I know we had the early link for anyone who had signed up and were able to get a bottle ahead of time. I presume there was an initial allocation for that discounted amount. Once we hit the 10 o'clock mark in 10 minutes, I presume Irish Malts will have their standard amount allocation that people will be able to purchase at that. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So there was only a set amount. So if you jumped on it as quick as you could, happy days. And then you will be available in 10 minutes time. On 10 o'clock is the general release, so it'll be retailing at €85 on Irish Malts, and recommended retail price across the country will be 85. Yeah,
perfect. Well, ahead of that time,
a shout out to the lads in bottling, because we really pushed it to the limit on Wednesday and Thursday to get these bottles out. Even Graham Coull was on the bottling line, and the crack was good. and we got it done, and it was part of the journey of Dingle for sure.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad to hear it was all hands on deck at least.
Yeah. I think I was more a hindrance than a help. But...
I was just going to say that. I was going to say they were probably like, Graham, get out of the way.
I made everybody else look good. So,
he was too bossy. For sure.
Well, I'm eager and chomping at the bit here because I did the good thing, and I was a good little blogger, and I didn't try my sample D ahead of time. Loads of people were messaging me, asking me what it tastes like, and I stayed true to the course. I haven't had sample D in the glass yet, but I think Graham, is it time for us to crack this bottle and get the sample in the glass?
I would say so. I think probably most people have jumped the gun anyway, quite rightly so. I'll do the same myself if I was on the other side of the fence. So this sample D is Samhain. We've spoken about it. It's a muscatel finish. It's had over 2 years in the muscatel, but obviously it started its life in bourbon cask a few years ago. Now, to do a finish, obviously you need to transfer from one cask to another, one cask type to another. So what happens is you empty several bourbon casks and then into the vat, and then we fill the muscatel casks from there. So you're mixing your bourbon casks together from the same year, and then filling into muscatel. And the muscatel's casks were butts, so they were big casks, 500-litre casks. So you needed pretty much 3 mature bourbon casks to fill the one muscatel butt.
All right, well, I'm going to take this moment to say sláinte. I'm going to have a little sip here. Happy Halloween, sauna, and enjoy. So I have seen a lot of people, I suppose, wondering what, I suppose, drew you to the muscatel that I suppose spoke to the Samhain release. I saw a couple of people worried in the comment section that there was going to be perhaps a peated cask to go alongside the bonfire theme, to which some people were trying to sway away from, and Faye brought them back to a reminder that you were famous for introducing peat in almost every distillery you've worked in, if not all of them. So I suppose what drew you to muscatel for this release as we sip on this, and I suppose, and just a reminder that this is at 50.5% ABV, if that's correct.
I think for me, the most important thing was to select the whiskey that I thought was right at the time for the release, because I've got several different cask types, different cask finishes, different styles in the warehouse, and they're all at slightly different stages. So it's a case of keeping an eye on them, and then deciding which one to press the button on, really. And this one, again, muscatel, it's not as dominant as a sherry cask. It's a bit similar to PX sherry in terms that it's sweet, and the grapes are dried in the sun to intensify the sweetness, but it doesn't have the kick of PX or Oloroso sherry. So a little bit slower. That's why it's had the longer finish, just to draw out those subtle flavors. Because if you're looking at your sample C and D, you're probably not seeing a huge amount of color difference, especially in the smaller bottle. When you see it in the full size bottle, then there is a marked change in color, but not the intensity that you would get from a heavy sherry cask. So need a little bit more time, but for me, muscatel's, it's actually quite nice and gentle. It's it's almost fresh. There's no heavy notes, heavy wood notes. It's almost floral in character. But it has that lovely sweetness, and sweet wine casks, sweet sherry casks. They tend to work very well with Dingle. The bigger component in the Dingle single malt is PX sherry, and certainly at this age of Dingle, this time, the sweetness really does work. And If you remember sample C, you remember the bourbon element, the flavors there, then try just to use your imagination to think what the muscatel has layered over the top of it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that there's a marked difference between the two, as you said, maybe not in color directly or as easy to see with the small bottles, but of course, in these two glasses, I think it's not missable in that regard. I see a lot of people in the comment section still coming through and having a great time with the sampling there. And I see Faye showcasing the bottle beautifully. And I would say it is a spectacular design. I think it's absolutely wonderful. Dave, are we going to see, I suppose, a theme in the packaging of the new series of whiskies? Is it going to be a similar style, or is every bottle going to be kind of unique?
Yeah, similar style. You've got a hint there with the wheel of the year. So each symbol will be the symbol of one of the packaging or one of the bottlings that will be coming out. So it's that kind of, you can have a bit of fun trying to guess, or a few people will cheat and jump on TTB and find out. But yeah, so you can kind of guess what the next one it'll be, and the next one will probably be released around February mark. But yeah, they are very limited. I don't see this. I'm hoping we crash Irish Malt site at 10 o'clock, but that's just me. But
2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes to Irish Malt's crashing. But yeah, no, there will be similar in design and that, and each of the symbols will be each of the bottlings that will be coming up to complete the wheel of the year, which is kind of the idea, so that you're following the wheel around, so that when it's a one complete set, you'll have all the symbols of the wheel, which is, again, it's a nice collection, nice touch to have, and it looks. Me and you have had this conversation many times, Matt, about bottles and the way they feel and the way they look, and the Dingle bottle. For me, from my bar days, I just love the Dingle bottle. The way it feels in your hand, the way the cork pops, and just all the different marks, the Remboy, the engraving across the bottom. I think the Samhain and the black label with the silver and gold is just absolutely phenomenal. So I think it'll really stand out on the shelf. And I think if you end up getting all 8 of them, which they all won't be single malts, but that's to wait and find out. But it'll be just something really cool to have on your shelf for when friends come over and you want to try and show something different. And again, it's a new series for us, so it's Graham's first bottle that he has got his name on, which is great. As he said, he's legal tender now here in Ireland. He had to come to Ireland to learn how to make proper whiskey, but sure, we won't get But I'll have a few of the Scots people jumping on me there now in the comments. But yeah, but it's great. It's great. Like, and it's one of those things. I don't know, for me especially. I've been in the drinks industry for way too long, and we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of Dingle, so I feel like Samhain is just the absolute perfect symbol and release to be bringing out now on the 10th anniversary of, like, Oliver and Liam and Peter and the lads setting up Dingle Distillery. You know, it's just that kind of thing where, you know, we've sat in bars many a time chatting about, like, oh, we can't wait until there's like a load of independent Irish distilleries and they're all 10 years old, and you can line up all their 10-year-old single malts and do a comparative taste and to see the characteristic. And like for Dingle, it's phenomenal that we're at the 10-year-old stage. We're still going strong, and I just feel the Samhain, just from the shoulders of the people who started this, that we keep going and keep producing some phenomenal whiskey.
Absolutely, and I suppose Alistair Cummins said,
yeah,
10 o'clock happening. There you go. Feel free to break Irish malts there, lads. John O'Donovan will
yeah, be texting us all going, what are you after doing? I hate you all.
Exactly. And it is interesting you say about the I suppose the collection that will come out and have demarcation of one of these symbols of the wheel of the year on it. And if we know anything about Dingle collectors, we know there's a few completionists out there. So I look forward to seeing those on the shelves. I understand that we're going to see a lot of people jumping between websites here, getting their hands on this bottling. Graham, is there anything you want to, I suppose, add to I suppose the conversation about the spirit while we're here?
I think it's more just about, you know, enjoy the next chapter of Dingle, really. You know, these next releases, they're not all set in stone yet. You know, I'm still working on them. You know, they'll be spread over a 2-year period. So, you know, some of the ones that may feature towards the end of the series are still quite in their infancy. So I'm keeping an eye. So I've got a few options up my sleeve. But you'll see single malt and pot still within the wheel. So, you know, it's a nice chance to try the different styles, and, you know, you may see them in the same cask type even. So lots of opportunities to compare, contrast, and just enjoy Dingle as we kind of head into double figures and beyond.
Well, I think that people will be very excited to see the culmination. I'm sure one of my favorite things is there's a lot of things in that warehouse, and you said we're getting towards the 10th birthday of the spirit itself. And I think people will be excited to know about, I suppose, some of the caliber of spirits you get to play with in there. I do want to reference when I see Peter Phelan saying, "Where am I heading out on the session after we're done?" I've been in Poland and the Netherlands for the past 7 days, doing a whiskey festival every single day. I'm going to bed. That is where I am going.
Yeah, well, we're working at 8 a.m. tomorrow, so
listen, Faye, I'm working at 10 a.m. so at least I get a little bit of a sleep in.
Oh,
so
no. 8 a.m.
So Dave, well, that's it. I said, listen, I'm 7 days on the trot at the moment, so we'll be in Rotterdam and The Hague tomorrow, so we'll be having a little bit of fun. Dave, why don't you give us a quick reminder, I suppose, for people in Ireland, what, I suppose, where can they find it's gone live right now? I suppose, where is it going live tomorrow? And if people are in the likes of the UK and such, is there a separate retailer, or is Irish Malt going to be able to service both?
Yeah, Irish Malt should be pretty much able to service everybody in the coming weeks. In the next week or two, we should be hitting all our different partners around, like the likes of UK, France, Belgium, Germany, America, Alberta, even as far over as Australia. So yeah, any of our partners that we work with, hopefully they will get some. It's going to be in about 19 different countries. Here in Ireland, Irish Malts, your local off license, the likes of Celtic and Foxes, the Malloy Group, Fine Wines in Limerick, just anywhere that around the country that you normally go to get your whiskey, just pop in there and ask for it, because they will be able to get it in. And the thing is, it is very limited, so do maybe give them a buzz tomorrow or stop by them tomorrow evening or Tuesday, just so that they can get it in on time for you. And yeah, it'll be recommended retail price of 85, and I don't see it lasting too long. But don't worry, we actually have a lovely little gift set hopefully coming out in December, including our Dingle Single Malt, which will be a Dingle Single Malt Old Fashioned kit. So you'll get a bottle of our beautiful Dingle Single Malt with a nice glass and bitters to make a perfect Dingle Single Malt Old Fashioned at home. So there's a few little bits that you'll be able to get between now and Christmas. But I'd say get on it as quick as you can. Irish Malt's great because they can get it right to your door. But if you fancy a stroll at lunchtime tomorrow, head to your local off license and ask for it. And they'll definitely be able to get it in, because I've been talking to every single one of them and they're all mad to get it in. So yeah, pretty much every inch of the country is covered. So they should well able. And if anybody needs to, just message me on Instagram or anyway, or if you have my mobile, and I can tell you where to get it.
Exactly. And remember that off licenses don't bring in things that people aren't asking for.
Could we just raise a glass
tonight
to Oliver Hughes, without who this would not have happened, and a very special lady, Mary Ferreter. So Slàinte.
Slàinte.
Oh, I'm taking your whiskey.
There we go.
Wouldn't be the first time, Faye.
Mm-mm.
Well, as a fitting tribute and memory, of course, to both rock stars of Dingle's, I think, history, and also a little bit of levity of Faye stealing Graham's glass that I think both of them would have enjoyed. Graham, is there anything you'd like to leave us with as we wind down?
No, I think just hopefully you can track down a bottle in the wild and enjoy it. Whiskey's not for collecting; it's for drinking.
Exactly. Very well said. Well, thank you to you guys and to everyone who has joined us this evening. There's literally hundreds of you, both those tasting along and watching and ordering through the absolutely fleecing Irish malts in the pre-sale, and then now I'm sure giving the lads a good run for their money with their web servers. Of course, to Graham, Barry, Dave, of course the Dingle Druid, Faye, the entire bottling team, and of course everyone at Dingle Distillery. Thank you very much for having us and everyone else in the comments section, and for producing some fantastic whiskey that, of course, ties so nicely into the history of the island.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.